What's up guys, it's Lorenzo from Quality Mobile Video. We got another install for you today and we're doing it in a 2016 Ford F-150. What we're installing is a Sony XAV-AX5000 utilizing a Metra dash kit. You've probably seen the Sony XAV-AX5000 in a couple of our other videos. What's interesting about this stereo is it is a double DIN faceplate with a single DIN chassis. And because it is a digital media receiver, it's not a full depth receiver. So this should actually make our installation just a little bit easier. We'll be using the Metra 99-5834CH. What makes this dash kit unique is that it has a touchscreen control for the factory AC controls. So let's get started. To start, we have to pull out the center channel speaker grill. And to do that, there's actually an indentation in the grill that allows us to do it pretty easy. And these snaps make a pretty loud noise. So we have 4 plastic tabs that you just have to pry to pop. It reveals 2 screws that are here in the back, so we need to remove those. So this socket actually is a 932. Just use a ratchet to undo it. Our next procedure is to pop out this tray. Oh, this seems like these have to come out first. No way. Oh, we lost the tab. That'll be fun. Hopefully we can get it. How far did it decide that it was going to go down? There's a little tab on the back. Just press that in and it'll come right out. Obviously, I've never done one of these before. Where would? Gee, okay. These have 2 little latches that you just pull in, and then these should just pop right out. So, the large harness just has a little push-in tab, and this harness has one that you actually need to press closer to the clip, or closer to the actual connector. If you try to push back here, it doesn't do anything. You have to push a little bit further forward. Oh, look at the tiny little screen. This is actually the backup camera module, and since we're retaining the camera, we're actually going to be moving this down. But I'm not a huge advocate of disconnecting. I don't need to. So we'll leave it connected for now until we get a little bit closer. We made sure to take out the nickelback CD prior to taking out the CD player. So on the big harness, you have the same type of tab right there. On this harness, you have a very similar one. And on these two, you just press the back here, and then that releases them. And again, since we're retaining the factory backup camera, according to the Metra instructions, what they want us to do is actually flip this module and then suspend it by using one of the 10mm bolts, or sorry, nut, and then to just reattach it using just a single nut. So since the owner of this vehicle actually does want to retain the sync module and sync with the new radio, Metra has provided us with 2 brackets. So we'll remove the factory bracket and put these in place, and then we mount the module down here. Do they want us to flip the module? Sure does feel like they do. The only question is, I don't know where the hell this USB goes, and so, damn, does that require me to literally take the whole console apart just to get this out? Because the owner does want to retain sync, you need to keep this USB. Metra does make a replacement block that allows us to get another USB for CarPlay on the new unit. And what we also want to do in the future is be able to mirror the phone directly. So we need the HDMI input, and then we would convert it to composite video behind the radio. But what we need to try to figure out is, can we release the harness? Because there appears to be a clip underneath, which we need to free. Then we can tuck this behind the dash and plug one of the USBs directly into here, tape it up, and put it behind the dash. So now we're just actually removing the sync module that we just put in earlier, because again, it appears that the factory USB cable has a clip underneath the center console, and we're just trying to get access to that clip to undo it. Pass this back up and wedge it for a second. Here's our USB cable right here. As with most installs, you end up having to do a little backtracking. So I can definitely feel the clip, and it appears it's just one of these. Yeah, and I can actually, here's the top of the clip right here. So we'll just push that down. It's hard to see. It's just a push-in clip. So we should be able to push this down and free it, and then we can wedge the factory USB back through. Get out of there. Oh, I think I got it. Yep. All right, so there's the clip. Okay, so there's the clip. And so now what we should be able to do is open this compartment. Yep. And then pass the factory USB, which should be kind of fun to try to do too. We were able to unclip the factory USB from this block. So now what we do is we'll pass this back through. And so there's our USB. And so what we'll do is we'll use the Metra panel. We're going to use the Access or Metra AX-FDUSBAUX. And so that gives us a drop-in replacement to the factory piece. Gives us 2 USBs, one of which we'll use for the factory sync, one of which we'll use for CarPlay. It'll give us a 3.5. The likelihood is we're not going to be using that. And then it gives us HDMI, which we intend on actually converting to composite video for a full mirror on the radio. So what I did is I used a little test of tape to mark it, top one being number 1 and bottom one being number 2. And now we'll just tape up the harness. Now we have our harness completely taped up, and now we'll run it. Now that we've been able to feed the wires, we're just going to install the jack panel. Do need to pull just a little bit more wire, but we should be able to get this in here. Trim back in. Now that we've taken care of the USB, we'll reinstall the sync module. Just have to feed the USB and HDMI and then put this back where it went with our new brackets. Now that we've got our USB, we're going to take the first one and plug it into the factory USB and definitely tape this up. And then we can tuck this behind the dash. And then they really disappeared. It's coming back out again. Yep, that's definitely coming back out. I'm not putting this module back in until we actually click in the harnesses, because these factory radio harnesses are pretty short and don't have a good way of maneuvering the wires with this in place. So I'm gonna just kind of tuck this, and so here's all the factory radio harnesses. The Metra kit will utilize the factory hazard button and the traction control, so we need to take both of these buttons out. Traction control, traction was left. And it did want us to take all of these as well. Which way do they want the brackets to line up? Big part towards the top. Yeah, so this has to line up. It appears to be right there. Oh, okay. Up. I'm gonna have to undo this tested tape joint. The wires aren't in the way that I want them to, and I don't want to have any crimps, so I want to send up the USBs, HDMI, and the factory wiring up through the right side. So now that should leave us all of this stuff coming up one side. And now I should be able to, the cables won't fall back down. That was the issue that I had the last time. So we'll just test fit the radio. And now we just need to wire it up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put the microphone for the Sony radio up in this corner. So we do have to take the pillar off and then run the wire to this location. All I'm doing now is just running the wire, routing it through above the steering column, making sure that it doesn't get pinched on a brake pedal or anything along those lines. What we're going to do is wire up the aftermarket Metra harness to the Sony harness. Now we actually have to connect two different harnesses. Cut these to length and we'll begin soldering. Now one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to add an extra power and ground because we intend on fully mirroring the radio, and we're going to put in the mirroring device and switcher a little bit later. These are the rear speaker connections for the amplified audio system, but since we don't have the Sony amplifier, we're capping these off. The secondary harness was where we make our rear speaker connections. So we'll just cap off the two remaining speakers. We'll do it with the mute lead and the remote turn on since we don't have a factory amp. So here's our completed harness. These plug into the factory connectors. We left a positive lead at accessory and ground for our USB power for our HDMI to composite video adapter. We have our remote turn on, which we left out because we will be connecting amplifiers later on in this car, but not right now. We have the connection to the aftermarket Sony radio, the connection to the Metra touchscreen, the steering wheel control cable, and these two RCA cables we will not be using. This is a procedure that has to be done correctly. At least according to the Metra instruction manual, there's a process by which we have to connect a cable at a particular time. So right now we're just following the instructions and connecting the appropriate cables. Then insert 5834 harness into the port A, but do not install this harness until exactly before step 1 of initializing the interface. Let's see. Oh, there is an aux video in. No way. That's cool. That allows you to connect a front camera. Do not plug into touchscreen. Sure looks like it's it. So now that we've connected our airbag light, we'll connect it to the interface. And this is the HVAC interface, which is a little bit different. Remember, this is the touchscreen, so they make specific references in the instruction manual to each. You just kind of have to slowly and methodically get your way through it. Here's the 6-pin harness that plugs into there. Metra makes specific reference to this harness, and what they basically say is to identify this socket here to plug this in, and then plug this into the vehicle harness is located here. However, they explicitly tell you not to do it until you're ready to program. So we're just going to reread the instruction manual just to make absolutely sure that we have everything correct, and then we'll start the programming. It specifically says Mustang, so you'll see that it says Mustang keypad only, so we won't be using that. This one, even though this harness matches up exactly with this one, it says specifically do not plug it into this location. It must be plugged into this interface. And the back of the interface states HVAC interface. So we're going to tape the one harness off that we know we're not going to need. These two we won't use. That's airbag. That goes there. So now the big question is, no, I can't put the radio in because I can't get access to those pieces. Have this in such a way that I will be able to flip it and install it. Yes, I should. The interface should tuck down here. And can we already tuck it? I think we could. So that means these need to go together. And these are kind of fun to get to. It doesn't have start stop, so please let this work. Oh, you f***ing idiot. I didn't connect this. I hope that didn't f*** everything up. F-150 15-18 4-inch screen. Oh, it works. Sweet, it works. The big question is, does the radio work? Let me just clip these on. Turn a little this way. We'll find out if this was a mistake, but I had to disconnect everything. Well, because I can't get everything in. So now I'm just trying to route wires in the interface. Because, man, this is a lot of stuff. Yeah, this can get unruly pretty fast. So this can go up here. This has to go, these two. So the question now is with this up here. These are not used, so let's route these over under. I'm taping these off because I'm not sure if they have live signal or not and may create some sort of noise, but I just want to make sure that we don't have to pull the dash back apart. I needs to pass. This thing is fucking crazy. That's gonna be, these go to there. Now I should. I hope I can get this radio in there. There's quite a bit here. So that should go to the radio. All right, let's try it. Antenna adapter. Backup camera. Steering wheel remote. Bluetooth mic. And now for the really big question. How hard will it be to get this in? Is because we never adjusted, we never checked to see the fitment of the radio. These will make later. This thing is crazy. So now what we'll do is make a quick test fit. Whoa, it's gonna be challenging. The harnesses are so fat. Man, it fits absolutely perfect without any adjustment. Yeah, we're good. No extra parts. Always a good sign. Oh, you know what I do want to do before I do this? Test the backup camera. There's factory backup camera. So we won't be using these RCAs ever because these do come from our center console. So we're gonna tape those off, even though there's no signal. Just better to tape them off, no clanking behind the dash. And since we will be doing phone mirroring, what we will do is we'll make a connection later on with the HDMI. We'll convert that to composite video, use a really cool switcher that will allow us to use the backup camera input and hopefully stream our audio through Bluetooth. So we do have our USB, and we're going to actually connect that not to the USB 2, but we're going to connect it to the USB 1 so we can get Apple CarPlay. And you can see the difference. One is just for USB playback and one is actually for smartphone connection. And remember, this actually comes from our center console. So now we'll just coil this wire up. It's good. we go. Cool, he can select it anytime. That's dope. Dope. Keep up. Find the nearest Starbucks.
The closest one I found is Starbucks on West Glen Oaks Boulevard.
Our final step is just reinstall the pillar. One thing, where are his lights? Now it goes in the dark mode and then it transitions. That's so cool. So what we did is we put in a Sony XAV-AX5000 and a Metra 99-5834CH dash kit. The dash kit consists of a full interface for the factory audio system, including an interface for the factory climate controls. Our old system had the knobs. This one utilizes a touchscreen and allows us full control of the factory HVAC system. We installed our USB port that allowed us to retain the factory sync connection with USB on bottom and gave us a USB connection to the new Sony radio for our Apple CarPlay. We installed the microphone for the Sony up here in the left A-pillar. And make sure to stay tuned because we do fully intend on replacing all of the speakers in this vehicle with Sony component sets and 2 Sony DSP amplifiers. Make sure to go to qualitymobilevideo.com for all of your car audio and video gear. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you hated it, click the dislike button. Join the conversation below, and thanks for watching.